Good evening, everyone. We can start off with call to order. We can have roll call going this way.
Okay. Sandy Ford.
Rita Arroyo,
Fernando Ansaldo Sanchez.
Lucas speak, but it sounds louder. I can't hear anything on.
okay.
I'll start over. Sandy Forte present.
Rita Arroyo present.
Fernando Ansaldo Sanchez present.
Fred Ledesma present.
Irvin Pisano present.
We will go through the agenda. So this is the advisory community fishing committee special meeting minutes of June 28th, 2023. We are going to first agenda item is going to be reviewing criteria, legal requirements for the pre-ration of the maps. So do we have that with us? The preparation of the maps?
Yeah. We're going through, Dr. Michael. The presentation, yeah, so that should be Kristen. No. Kristen, are you on?
Okay. Hi, good evening. Can you all hear me okay?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. I'm going to try to be brief because I know you have a lot on your plate this evening. Quick review, here we are in the schedule at our second advisory committee meeting. After the committee makes the recommendation to City Council, there will need to be at least 2 public hearings before the City Council. And this is when they'll discuss the committee's recommendation, as well as any additional maps, which I think the only additional map that's come in is Fernando's. So that will also be presented formally to the council, regardless of whether it's part of the committee's recommendation, just because it's the only one they haven't had presented to them yet. And then ultimately, we are hoping that this map will be adopted, I would say, by the time school starts. So, August or September would be wonderful for that. Of course, this map will go into effect for the 2024 election. Quick review of these legal requirements. First, each district should be relatively equal in population size. We're looking for, no more than really plus or minus 5% deviation for each of the districts. We also take care to pay attention to the Federal Voting Rights Act. And although we do look at citizen voting age population by race and ethnicity, we can't draw any district boundaries based entirely on race or predominantly on race. In terms of the state law, we have 4 criteria that are rank ordered in terms of priorities. So when we go through the maps this evening, I'm going to remind you to think through these items. The good news is that the first item, geographic contiguity, all of the maps that we have are contiguous insofar as the city itself, right? So the only thing you want to think about is those non-contiguous parts of the city, making sure that you think they're assigned to the proper district. Number 2, state law says that districts should, to the extent possible, not be dividing neighborhoods and communities of interest. Communities of interest is simply a broader term in state law. It's broader than neighborhood, but both of these are talking about geographic areas where neighbors have common interests, particularly when it comes to policy controlled by the city. So that's something I really want to hear from you on, because as residents of Soledad, you are the experts on your neighborhoods and communities. So where you see neighborhoods on the maps, we want to know whether or not you think those neighborhoods should be kept together in one council district, and highlight for us if they are being divided by district boundaries. Third, we want to make sure under state law that the boundaries of our districts are easily identifiable to residents of the city. So this means wherever possible, we want our boundary lines to follow the bigger roads rather than the smaller roads or any alleys or that kind of thing. We want maybe follow the railroad tracks or a creek or something like that everyone is familiar with. And finally, last on the list under state law is to try to ensure that districts are compact. And when districts aren't compact, we want to make sure that they're not compact for a reason, right? Like we are trying to keep together a community. And so that could be a justification for having a district that looks like it's excluding a nearby area to include a farther away area. We'd want to make sure that we documented why that would be. So these are our legal requirements. Of course, all of the maps so far are available online. cityofsoledad.com/district elections is your hub. There's PDF versions of the maps, as well as the interactive map, which I'm happy to keep up during your conversations this evening. If you want to zoom in on any parts of the map, we can look at the interactive. At this point, you have before you a total of 6 draft maps. And of these 6 draft maps, 5 were created by our demographer team at NDC. 3 of those are 4 district maps that were originally presented to City Council, and then they requested 5 district maps as well. So there are 2 of those that NDC has created. The only map that we have received from the public, and I believe we said today was the deadline for public maps, so we may not see any more public maps. And that's map 401. We're calling it 401 because it's a 4 district map. And of course, that is Fernando's map. And I think it would be good to give him another opportunity to perhaps explain the rationale behind his map now that you have it in front of you. All of these maps meet that federal requirement for equal population. So all of these maps we consider population balanced, and all of them are meeting that first state law requirement of contiguity. So you don't have any maps here that are disqualified. You have all 6 of these maps to discuss this evening. And I wanted to just give you an idea of some questions to consider as you're trying to identify your preferred maps and trying to explain to other members of the committee why you might prefer one map to another. And first and foremost, if we're going by state law, right, the most important argument you could make is to keep a neighborhood or community together within one district. So the first question is, is the map dividing neighborhoods that would be better served by keeping those neighborhoods intact? And then again, following the state law in order of priority, you might see that one map has boundaries that are more easily identifiable to residents than others, right? Sometimes we talk about, well, the boundaries on this map look confusing, right? So that is a consideration under state law. We don't want the boundaries to be confusing. And then third, we can also look at compactness. So you might prefer a map where districts are more compact. Or if you prefer a map that has a non-compact district, you might want to explain what the rationale is for having that district that is not compact. Those are the sort of top 3. That's why I numbered those 1, 2, 3. After that, right, you really can discuss any other factors that may be unique to Soledad. I have 2 questions here that are not at all, they're not legally required. They're just what some other cities historically and traditionally look at. First being, if one part of your city you're expecting it to grow a lot in the next decade, you might want to be careful to not overpopulate that district, just thinking towards the future, right? And then the other thing that we talk about is if any of our maps are pairing together current council members, we have to look at the election years so that we know what election year to assign to that district. So I believe that the only map we have that pairs any council members is Public 401. And the good news about those pairings is I believe there are 2 council members paired, but they have the same election year. So we don't have to make any difficult choices if we were to go with that map. 2 separate districts have 2 council members in them, but they're pairing the 2 2024 council members and the 2 2026 council members. So that makes that easier, right? So you don't have to really wade into anything too difficult with election sequencing. I'm glad to report. So I just wanted to put up, I don't know how well you can see things on the screen where you are, but hopefully you have it in front of you. Fernando's map, and I can put this back up if it's helpful after my presentation so that he can perhaps walk you through this map. I did renumber it so that what we can talk about, 1 being the pink color, 2 being the blue color, 3 the green, etc. But this is the only new map. It's the only new map that we have. What that means is your total array of 4 district maps are yellow, tan, green, and 401. So you can see how the approaches here are different, and you can see how the boundary lines are different. You know, we have, even just talking about the business corridor along Front Street, the yellow map is sort of trying to keep that together, but you can see that that means that in this yellow map, District 4 is not necessarily very compact, and the reason is it's trying to keep together all of Front Street. You can see the tan map here tries to create a central district, which is the green one, District 3, and then have districts 1, 2, and 4 around that central district. That may or may not make any sense for Soledad. The green map here then really splits the city into sort of 4 quadrants. Again, a totally different approach, may or may not make sense for your city. So very helpful for you to talk through these. And what you see with Fernando's map is that there's a District 1, sort of a northern district, and then like we actually have in all of these maps, there's a District 2 that really follows down the eastern side of the city. And then District 3 and 4 here in 401 are divided pretty much by Main Street. So these are the 4 district maps before you. And then there are 2 5-district maps here that again take 2 different approaches, right? The Mango map does that thing where it sort of keeps the business corridor and Front Street all together in the purple district, District 4. And then the Apple map takes that a different approach there, and kind of you almost have a layer cake at the top here where you have districts 1, 3, 5, 2, and then the southern part of the city mostly in District 4. So this is just my overview. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have about any specific maps or about the process. And then I will pass it back over to the chair to continue with the agenda. That is all I wanted to present to you this evening.
Christian, through the chair, if I might. Christian, I actually have two maps, a 4 and a 5. My 4 is very similar, like the tan map. My 5 is not that much different, but fairly close to the 2 that you have there, but they differ a little bit. It's very close to the Bango, but I would like to submit those also.
Okay, and you have them online or paper?
I actually have them right here. I kind of did it old school. I couldn't.
Yeah, well, that's what the paper maps are for.
The stuff in there,
Okay.
so I'll hand them to the members. But I'll let the chair go ahead and then we'll move on from there.
Thank you for letting me know.
Uh-huh.
Any more questions?
Darlene, can I give you one of these?
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, Kristen. So before we continue, I'll first want to acknowledge the crowd we have going back there. So thank you all for being here, the public, the community, anyone that's online as well.
I understand.
So before we move forward, we can approve of the minutes. So here you are. So approval of minutes, do we have approval of the minutes? So the following ones, we just did the review criteria, so that's number 3, item number 3, legal requirements for preparation of the map.
It's the same as the.
Do we have approval of review, discussion and selection preparation for district map? We have approval of that.
I make a motion that we approve that.
I second.
We move forward with that approval.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Awesome. We're moving forward. Approval of 5, review, discuss and select preferred 5 district map. We have a motion.
So moved, yeah.
Motion. We have no motion. Do we have 2 motions?
Second.
Second motion. Do we have approval?
Aye.
Aye.
Awesome. We approve. So for the 6, approve staff with direction. So we are going to provide staff with direction. Do we have a motion?
4 already? But today?
Yeah.
Sorry, I was trying to. So the hope is that you will discuss first, the 4 district map. And then from the packet of the 4 district maps, come away with a minimum of 1 recommendation or no recommendations at all. So at this point, I would recommend, Madam Chair, that you pull out the 4 district maps and then have a discussion among yourself as to, which one you prefer to take to council for approval.
Okay. So we can discuss, also have a question. Can any of the public bring a map forward? Is that allowed?
We're finding that out right now, but yeah, so today is the deadline. I don't know if we had a time for today, to do the deadline. So we'll have that answer in a little bit. Darlene, just.
Question through the chair, if I may.
Yes.
Were we supposed to have these all kind of done like this in order to discuss them? Or can we discuss them without having this part done?
Kristen, does the map automatically generate the population numbers?
Or is it that something else?
If
The ones
you,
that are
if
being
it's,
submitted.
if they're submitted online, yes. If they're on paper, unfortunately, no, we do have to process those to confirm to you that they are population balanced and eligible for consideration. Does that make sense? Sometimes people draw ones that they really want, districts they really want, but they're not meeting that equal population requirement. So we do have to verify that for all the paper maps. That takes, 3 to 5 days for us to do. So any maps that you're receiving on paper, I would say look at the lines. Because those are ideas, but I wouldn't suggest taking a position yes or no against any of the maps that you do not have full demographic data for.
Okay. So I would say if you have a map that's presented right now today, to look at the distinctions between what the other maps have and maybe capture. those.
Madam Chair, through the chair, if you notice, I already provided you also with population on each district.
Okay,
So that you know, Christian, I submitted a 4 and a 5, but the 4 is pretty much the Dan map, but the 5 I submitted also has population and explanations for 2 of the districts that have less population in them for future growth, which would be district, I think it's district 2 and district 4.
so
Yeah,
you are currently providing us with this 5 district.
correct. No, I also have a 4.
Okay.
I have a 4, but it's the same map that they have there.
As a town.
So, yeah, I had gone through the time of going with a 4 also, but it's basically the TAN map
Okay.
that's on there. Right, which if I'm not mistaken, is fairly close to what Fernando is.
Kind of,
Yeah,
a little bit.
Okay, so let's open up for a discussion. We are going to discuss the 4 district map. So do you want to discuss your map since your map is
New.
new?
Sounds good, yeah, so through my public 401 map, after hearing a lot of different community members and folks that are in and not in this room about sort of like their worries about us moving to district elections, I think I had worries as well when hearing that we kind of had to move towards district elections because sometimes for whatever reason voter turnout's not so great. I know that a lot of our sister cities have similar issues that have moved to the district elections. So I sort of kind of had that in mind. I think I remember last time, I think Fred mentioned that certain parts of town might not vote as much as other parts of town. So I kind of was like thinking about that as well and trying to kind of listen to what everybody had to say, as well as keeping in mind different neighborhoods. So I came up with this map because I sort of heard that parts of the town that might not have as much voter turnout. So I kind of wanted to add vertically instead of kind of sectioning off horizontally. I don't know. That's kind of how my brain worked there. I know number 1, district 1 is a little more horizontal and I kept them together because, I mean, as we all know in that area of town, it's a little bit more affluent. So they kind of have that sort of similarities going on for them. For number 2, it's a little bit longer, but that's just because of how our town is. That section, there's like a big road or orchard that runs all the way down. So I kind of try to draw it that way there. For 3, kind of a little bit more similarly kind of connected neighborhoods. And then for district 4, again, same thing, similarly connected neighborhoods. I try to also keep in mind the different schools that are in those areas to make sure that not all the schools are in one certain district. I don't know if that matters or not. It was another thing that I was like, maybe I can try to hit all these points. But that's pretty much the way I drew the map. I had no idea where people live, so I didn't know that I was dividing folks that are on the current council, but that's kind of what I decided to base my map off of. I just tried to be as fair as I could. And I think that in the demographics section, it's pretty similar to the other maps that are proposed for the 4 districts. I don't see much difference except for household income. And I think that's just something that kind of happens when your town is built kind of like how Soledad is, where there was a first southern portion. And then I think in the late 90s, early 2000s, we started building up. So that's just kind of gonna happen there. I don't know what districts in this map may have more of a population growth. I don't think we got that information. But I think by the time that the new housing is developed, I think it'll be time for us to redraw the maps anyways, because we do it every 10 years, and that'll be coming up sooner than we think. And I think that's all I have, but if you all have questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Does anyone have?
through the chair, so your map basically has the population pretty even now, or have you kind of compensated for areas that look like they're gonna have future growth?
Well, I don't know where future growth is going to happen. I know it's gonna happen past, above. Up here, Miramonte, I know that's happening. I don't know where else is being built other than. Maybe here in this area,
Right.
but, I don't have that information. It wasn't given to me. Yeah.
Does anyone else want to discuss one of their favorite maps that they think for the fourth district map?
Madam Chair, I would say that the TAN map, because I kind of looked at all of them. And I think it's fairly close to Fernando's, but my sense is that it's gonna be kind of a crapshoot in some ways, because we don't really know what the economy is gonna. Well, I think the council would be have more insight than the public would, or that we would here. In regards to what areas are going to grow maybe a little bit quicker. But that's why ultimately they're gonna make the decision, and we're not gonna make the decision. So with that in mind, I would submit either Fernando's map or the Dan map for the similarities in regards to 4 districts.
Thank you.
I second that.
Okay, so are you seconding for 401 or TAN or both?
Both.
Sandy?
I'm sorry, I'm just looking at the numbers. Looking to see if there's any like discrepancies and in regards as to, voting population, voter registration, percentages, numbers, voter turnout. Because that's gonna be important as we're looking at that. So I'm looking at voter turnout, right? We're at. As I see, on map 1 and 401 on voter turnout in November 2018. On area 1, the voter turnout was 1,074. But in the other areas, it was only 677, 544, and 722. And that's on map 401. And then looking at voter turnout for November 2020. We're seeing voter turnout a little bit better. A little closer.
Yeah.
And then in the TAN map. In District 2. There's 1,000 voters turnout in 2018. And then the others are 745, 735, and then District 4 is at only at 521. And then looking at 2020. Well, they're looking kind of even-ish. District 4 would be at a loss if there were any type of voting situation, since it's looking kind of like the voting numbers are low both in 2018 and 2020. So I'm just looking at those, looking at the district lines, etc. Total population kind of looks fairly even. Citizen voting age. On the TAN map, on the citizen voting age, we've got District 1 with 3,237, and on Fernando's map, District 1 has 2,187.
Let me jump in. I'm just noticing that the citizen voting age population numbers for the TAN map are they look incorrect to me. They look correct for every other map. But there's no way that there were 12,986 CBAP. So I'll look into that and fix that, but the registration and the turnout numbers look correct to me. and all
Okay.
the other numbers there. But thank you for pointing that out.
I do wanna point out that I think people vote more in presidential elections, so maybe that's why there's such difference between 2018 and 2020.
Well, and it could be too, how it's mapped out. So it just, that would be my question.
Cause it
Um,
looks like on both maps, voter turnout is a lot lower in 2018 for all districts.
Yeah.
And then there's a substantial jump between 2018 and 2020.
I think, through the chair, I think that's historical, that the presidential election will always have
Yeah.
a much larger percentage of voter turnout. I think we saw that at the last election, it was like an all-time high,
Yeah.
because of the
definitely.
Trump factor, that a lot of people, especially in this community, voted, because of Trump, anti-Trump, basically, but.
And then, do you have any further comments?
just, going down, I think that's something important that we need to look at as we're reviewing information.
Definitely.
Looking at, the population rates, who's gonna be coming in to vote. What are the numbers there? Looking at, probably education level would be a good one to look at. Just to make sure that, we're fairly even within those areas. And then understanding that maybe in those districts where, the education rates are lower, that we provide more
Resources?
community information, not resources, but I would say community information about voting, the community itself or the processes that we have, so that they become more involved, community engagement type of activities, type of things.
That's a really good idea.
Mhm.
I agree, I think that voter turnout is important, as well as education and household income. I think those are factors that are really important to look into, to see the sustainability within the growth and also, for each region to sustain itself really and then come together as a community. With that said, do you have a vote in between which one would you prefer? Do we need to talk a little bit more about them?
No, I'm in agreement with what was put forth in the Madam Chair, but both 401 and the town map. And I think that was actually a good recommendation for the table, due to the fact that we do have to review those numbers on the citizen voting age population, that was a discrepancy there, so.
So I think I don't believe I asked you which one you want to move forward with.
Well, I did work really hard on 401, so I'm gonna say 401. But I'm not opposed to also putting forth 10 as well.
Okay. For the 10.
401 and 10.
So, do we open it up to the public? Okay, first online. If there's anyone online that would like to discuss, so the committee has looked at two of the maps that we are leaning towards in favor of. One of them is the tan one, and the other one is the 401. Do we have any comments from the public online? Okay, well, I'll take it to the in-person. Yes?
Do they go there?
You can come up here.
You wanna come up here?
Yeah. Thank you.
I'm not sure how this will work out. So my name is Brian Dana, part of the community. More than anything, I want to express my support, and I think along with some of the people that were here for map 401, so we're glad to hear that you guys are putting that forth. We do think that that brings the most equitable representation for our community, and also a fair balance in map 401 for the businesses and business corridor, right? So we're thankful that you guys are putting forth, map 401 as a proposal. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Brian.
Thank you, Brian.
Is there any further comments from the public? So we can vote as a committee. So I vote for 401 as well, especially since we've had community members come forward and choose that one as in favor. So I put my vote towards moving forward with 401. So now we can take it to a vote. Motion to move forward with 401 as the District 4 map advisory to the city council.
Could I amend that? Because I would prefer to say either the TAN map or the 401. I mean, I don't really have that strong of a preference, even though I appreciate everything that Fernando's put together, and I think ultimately his might be the right map. But I would just say that, I mean, a recommendation, but the council's ultimately gonna make that decision.
Absolutely.
But I don't know if anyone else feels that way or.
I just through the chair, just have a question.
Yes.
I thought we were just picking one.
Yeah.
Can we pick two?
We can pick two. Okay,
Perfect.
do we feel comfortable picking the two and then putting those forward? Do we have a motion?
I will. Right for
Sure.
Do we have a second motion?
I'll second that motion.
We, all in favor of moving forward with both of these maps, the TAN map and the 401 as a advisory to the city council?
One more amendment to make sure that the citizen voting age population numbers are adjusted prior to submitting to city council to ensure they're looking at the right numbers.
Thank you for bringing that up. I will.
And how do we make that suggestion? Are we keeping notes?
Just like that.
Yeah.
That's perfect. I'm keeping notes.
Awesome.
So you'll still come and you can join us and do the recommendation to the council. You can all come, that would be fine. But I'm keeping notes and they'll be able to see the minutes. And we'll make sure before that agenda goes to the council, we'll make sure those corrections are made.
Any more comments to be added to moving this forward? So we had one motion. Looking for the second motion. The criteria of confirming and checking the citizen voting age population, adjusting those numbers.
Madam Chair, we got the second.
We had a
Okay.
Yeah, the second.
So moving forward,
Aye.
all in favor?
Hi,
Aye.
Awesome. We're moving forward with 401 and the 10 for 4 district. Great. So now we are moving on to the fifth item. The fifth item is to review, discuss, and select preferred 5 district map. So Frank, would you like the floor? Brett, sorry, I apologize.
thank you. No, it's okay. My father was Frank, my brother's Frank, but I'm Fred. Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. We have two districts, the mango and the apple in regards to 5. The map that I have is very similar. My only concern, even with what I put together, is mine does have a little bit of, you notice some cross. And the reason for that was being in the chair before, I understand that the yellow, right, the red are probably your highest growth, future growth. Yeah, because that's where the new subdivisions are at, they're up there on top, right? I also would tell you what I do not, I mean, I did provide you with the population, and you'll notice that district 1, 2, and 4 have maybe 500, 350 to 500 fewer people in those districts, and it's just because for that reason and that reason alone. What I do not have the data for, and I apologize for that, was the age of the voters. And I think the council can probably read through that. I would just say that My biggest concern is, and I think I shared this with you last time, was I saw the city of King have 36 and 39 in a district at their last two elections. Even their presidential election, they had 39 people show up to vote. It is, I don't know if the city fathers did not do the work or didn't understand their own community, but I think that it is, and the city of King is basically dominated by white voters, but the majority of people that live there are Latino, right, are Mexican American, and it's very unfortunate, but that's their city. I'm not worried about their city, I'm worried about us. So I would say that we have two maps, the mango and the apple, and the third map, I apologize, but I would like for the council to consider that map also. But I lack, like I said before, I lack the data in regards to the voter. I do have the population numbers, but not the rest. So that's.
Madam Chair, question for you. Now that that map has been submitted at this point in time, will that be uploaded by, yeah, Kristen, thank you. I said Megan, I don't know why. You're Megan. By Kristen to generate those numbers prior to moving forward, if we so decide to do so, to city council.
So Kristen, correct me if I misunderstood, but I think at this point, all of the maps submitted are presumed to qualify. However, it will take Kristen 2 to 3 days to just run those numbers.
Okay.
So if they meet the qualifications, then we can approach them. Kristen, let me know if I got that correct.
Yeah, so everything submitted will be uploaded to the website. If for some reason a map does not meet those requirements, we will indicate that on the website. And then we will, say council should only consider the eligible maps, which are as follows.
Okay.
So we can discuss the maps.
So,
Would you like to?
yes, I'm gonna be completely honest and probably a very unpopular opinion. Maybe not, maybe people agree. I am not in favor of any of the 5 district maps. I think it goes against our democratic process. I think there was a time where there was like not districts, but rotating mayor. And I think that was amended in our city. If I know the history correctly, and I don't think it's fair to kind of come back to that. I think most cities elect their own mayor. And I think it is important for the community to have input on their mayor. So I'm not in favor of any of the maps. And I think that if we're going to make a recommendation, my favorite 2 words right here, it says if any, it should be just for the 4 districts so that our community has a voice and is able to elect their own mayor. Yeah.
Madam Chair, I appreciate your comments. I'll disagree with you completely. Simply for the fact that the one issue that you have with district voting, and especially with 4, and then having the mayor at large, is the other 4 districts, and I've seen this happen, sometimes feel slighted. That for whatever reason, this council, for example, is probably the most politically charged that I've seen in my whole life here. And so my fear is that somebody will have a vendetta for a particular person or district, and then that district's gonna feel like, hey, dude, I'm getting squatted on all the time because that person does not like me. That's just the way it is in communities, right? So that's my only concern. I disagree also with you, Fernando, and simply for the fact that that wasn't our charge. Our charge was to submit a couple of maps, and I think for us to be fair to the council and fair to the public, we should be submitting maps on both sides. I mean, I particularly don't agree with you. I think 5 districts is much better, but I'll allow you to have that opinion. But at least I had the courtesy to submit a 4 and agree on a 4 district map, rather than say, no, that's completely out, because that's not my vote. I don't appreciate the fact that the way they set this up was they're basically making this politically charged for us. And that's not our job. Do any of us have a vote? No, well, none of us have a vote. So we should not be, in my opinion, in that position to be put on point because I don't have a vote. So I appreciate all the people here are gonna say whatever they feel, which they have the right to. But that's not my charge. My charge is to submit 2 maps. And those 5 people there have the right to vote for that. And that's what the public voted for. And they have the right to decide what it's going to be. The other thing is, if the public trusts them and voted for them, then I think that we should also do the same and allow the mayor and the current council the liberty of saying, that's why you're elected. I trust that whatever you're gonna vote for, I will, because we voted for you. So, but that's just, that's just my thought. So, and that's why, even though I don't think that the 4 is the best, I really believe the 5 is the best. But that doesn't mean that I'm not gonna preclude that and not vote for, or just say that. No. So if you feel that those 2 maps, which I do agree with you, one of those 401 I thought was a good map, and the other one. So which was what, was it color? Was it a color map? 10 map? Yeah. But anyhow, that's just my thought. So.
I think just one, through the chair, I guess, I appreciate your comments. I think the only other disagreement is that if, for example, if I live in one district, I only vote for one person on the council. So if we're rotating for mayor, then someone's gonna be mayor 4 times that I didn't vote for. So I think that's like my biggest thing of why I disagree with rotating mayor. And I think at large brings the ability to not only vote for the person that represents your community, but also the person that represents your town. And that's kind of where I'm coming from. And that's pretty much it, I guess, for my thoughts on that.
I have my thoughts and opinions too. I do believe that in the keeping the sanctity of process and procedure, and equity and providing an appropriate submission to council, that we do submit and choose, we could do the same, choose 2 and 2 and make it fair, 2 4s, 2 5s, and give council the opportunity to review those, look at the numbers, decide for themselves. Having lived in the 4th largest city in the state of California for 25 years and being involved in redistricting and voting processes, the important part about districting is making sure that there is representation. And many times when you have an at-large position, you don't have as much equity in decision-making, although that, the charge to the people who have been, voted into those positions or appointed to those positions, that's their charge, right? To be as equitable as possible. So we always have to put our political views aside and then take a look at, okay, what is it that we really need to do for the future of the city, for the good of the all? And so looking at these pieces, for me, I'm looking at the maps, and I'm looking at the numbers. And that's why I brought up the question about where are we looking at population growth, because, we could have a bunch of 18-year-olds coming in, right, in one district. And in another district, we have a lot of elderly people dying who are voting age, and now we have a big discrepancy. Not that we can control all of that, but, I think that's a big piece. And I think when we have districts, we are representing that core community as a district. We are representing the people in our area that we're there, and we should. And so does it sometimes make for maybe a slower movement of some of the cogs? Yes. But what I have seen is many times we do get a little bit better equity across the board. And then we have a little bit more leverage to be able to say, District 4 ABC got this and District 5 didn't. And me, as a representative, it would be my responsibility to say, why is the reason for this, right? So this is my constituents say, this is what we want, what we need. And, when we're sitting and voting, if you have 4 I think you have a better. If you have five, I think you have a better thing. I too agree with the five, only because I've been in larger districts and district areas with that experience. But, you know, again, I think it is the decision of the city council to make that final decision. And then give them choices, you know, 2 choices, 4 choices, I think is actually more fair.
Mhm.
Given that, you know, 2 choices is like, we chose this and we chose this. 4 choices, I think, just like we had, what, 7, I think, or so, you know, gives us the opportunity to review them and look at them. And I think that would be a much better opportunity for equity, which is, I know what you're looking for.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's gonna be a long meeting when they go to decide that.
Shall we?
I will be there, that's for damn sure.
No, just like how everybody's mentioning, you know, everything's gonna go back to the council's opinion about what, so I'm just here to give my recommendations and, you know, I'm happy to be part of this committee and, you know, here to give my recommendations and I'll see, we'll go on from there.
So what is your recommendation?
You know,
Believe
honestly,
that there
like,
should be
I
a.
feel Salta is a growing town and, you know, I believe that, you know, everybody in council, especially, you know, being part of, like, as part of the city, everybody should have a position in, representing the part of the town, you know? And they shouldn't be left out, and I believe, I would be the best option for Salta.
So, my personal opinion, and this is based off of, conversations with the community. I have presented these maps, you know, in multiple conversations, and every conversation that I have had with the community, they all disagreed with 5. They do not want 5, districts, because that is not equitable, and that doesn't, the mayor is not elected by the entire community. It's elected by very few people. So I have heard and understood every point here. But my position is to we would want to move forward with the map, correct? However, moving forward with the map means so much. It means that we are going to if we move forward with the map, we are providing that vote as a whole to say that the 5 district is a good idea, and I personally do not believe that. I don't believe that not having the mayor elected by the entire community is not equitable. And that stands with, again, every conversation that I've had with the community. So I will say that you need 3 votes to move forward. So I am going to not recommend any, and that will be my vote, to not recommend any.
Okay, but I think you need to bring that to a vote, Madam Chair.
Yes, absolutely. So now we can open it up to public comments. Does anyone else have any comments, questions before we move forward off to public comments?
I just would like to put forward on the table, Madam Chair, that, I would like to move forward. I'm gonna label 501, since we had Fernando's as 401. 501, which is, Mr. Ledesma's map, and then the Apple map. I was looking at the numbers on Mango, and they didn't sit well with me. I think, the numbers over on the Apple map seem to be a better representation of each district area. Of course, with accountability for growth in the areas that are gonna be growing fairly soon. That's what I would like to recommend, just in the fairness of providing
So the apple or the mango one?
the
Yours and Apple, I think.
golden apple.
I think Mango had like below 85%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was looking at Apple and 501.
Yeah.
And I just looked at as equity, looking at providing one community map on the 4 and providing one community map on the 5. And I think that would be, for the good of the law at this point in time, and then council will make the final decision. I mean, ultimately, that's what's gonna happen, so.
Yeah.
We've provided our input, community has provided their input, and I think we're doing our job of just choosing what are the best representations at this point, for the community at large.
Absolutely, and I think that every one of us has an opinion because we are embedded within the community in different ways. So I think everyone's opinion really matters here in this committee, so please voice your opinion if you have one. So you, Sandy, so you're in favor of the 501
Yeah, 501 and Apple.
and the Apple?
Yes.
Okay.
ma'am.
And so I'll take it this way, I don't favor any. Fernando, do you have?
Madam Chair, I'm
Okay,
sorry,
let's do that.
I'm wondering if you opened it up for public comment, but you also have to go with like a motion, second, and vote, correct me if I'm wrong, Megan, but.
So you have to go to public comment, allow the public to say something, then before we.
Could we maybe discuss what is our favorite and then go to public comment? Should we go to public comment first?
I think since you opened it up for public comment,
Okay.
I think it would be best to go to public comment. You can continue to talk. I did want to just clarify on the 501. We can put it forward if it's an eligible map,
Exactly.
but she hasn't done the numbers, so if it's
Correct.
uneligible, then it would just be Apple.
Yep.
Going
Okay.
forward, so.
So it'll be an amended motion then, I guess, once you.
Right, and thank you for reminding me, because I was thinking about that, I just didn't write it down in my notes, that if it's approved.
But I would take it out to public comment since you opened it up for that.
Okay. Thank you.
Sorry.
So opening it up to the public comment online. No,
None?
okay. Opening it up to the public comment. In person, that's fine. You can step forward.
Trying not to say well, but,
Is the microphone on so that the public can hear their online?
thank you, I just wanted to add that me and as long as several community members and several other people I've talked to with the time that I spent after I heard about the decision, I've gone to several farmers market and I've talked to people about it. Every time they hear the 5 district, they don't want that option. I strongly oppose it, as long as several community members. I believe that this approach will diminish the voice of the people. It takes away our vote, it takes away our representation. We want to be able to vote for that mayor, and like you said, there's several towns that are large and still vote for the mayor, and I think I would wanna have that vote and always keep that vote. Yeah, I think if you guys do propose a five district map, that there should be plenty of community outreach so that they know that this is happening, because none of the people that I talked to wanted a 5 district map. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else has a public comment? Yes, please.
¿Puedo hablar en español?
Sí,
Claro.
claro que
Me
sí.
siento más a gusto. Buenas tardes, soy María Sánchez. La primera vez que vengo yo aquí no me había dado cuenta de estas juntas, y oyendo lo que estoy viendo, yo no creo que nadie de la comunidad estaríamos de acuerdo en que nos quiten el derecho de elegir a nuestro mayor, como por tantos años lo hemos hecho. A Fred, ¿cuántos años te elegimos a ti?
Ujú.
Y no se me hace justo que ahora nos lo quieran quitar nada más por hacer 5 distritos que no sé en qué nos beneficiarían. Y yo también quería preguntar de qué forma le van a dar a conocer a la gente esto y el derecho de estar de acuerdo o no estar de acuerdo en que se haga esto. O no se va a hacer, o sea, nada más lo va a decidir el concilio.
Number 2. Si me permite.
Let's wait until she's fully done.
Okay. Lo que han decidido acerca de la consejería de
point of order.
Yeah, sorry, Sandy. So given that it's public comment, we can answer the question. when we
Oh,
come
okay,
back.
thank you.
Yeah, entonces ahorita que se termine el comentario público, podemos contestar esa pregunta. Okay, so I'm just gonna translate, really quick. My name is Maria Sanchez. This is my first time here. I've been talking to people. No one in the community would want us to take away the right to vote for mayor. Fred, how many years do we elect you? I do not understand how this would benefit the community. And the question that was asked is, how are we, I'm assuming as city, going to communicate this to the people once the vote has passed?
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Marta Zárate, yo soy miembro de la comunidad de Soledad desde hace 18 años. Yo también estoy de acuerdo que sean 5 distritos en nuestra comunidad, porque creo que si deciden hacer 5 distritos, nos van a quitar el derecho a votar por nuestro alcalde, como lo ha mencionado la señora María. Y creo que es algo muy importante porque la Constitución marca que tenemos derecho a votar y elegir a nuestras personas que queremos en la mesa. Y como lo han mencionado, es importante que las personas que están haciendo esto por la comunidad, y a lo mejor es un cargo muy pesado para ustedes tomar estas decisiones, pero siempre tienen que pensar en el bien de la comunidad, no en el bien de sí mismo. Entonces yo pienso que para que las personas que están en la mesa en el concilio de la ciudad, que son 5 personas, por lo menos el alcalde debe ser elegido por la ciudad, por la comunidad, por las personas que tienen el derecho a votar y a elegir sus representantes. Y no es conveniente que se rolen el puesto cuando ni siquiera han hecho algo para merecer ese puesto. Entonces yo pienso que sí debemos de exigir que no pongan 5 distritos. Gracias.
Buenas.
Perdón. My name is Marta Zárate. I'm also against the 5 districts. We want to retain the right to vote for a mayor. The Constitution gives us the right to vote. We understand that it's hard to make the decision here, but just think about the benefit for the community. The mayor should be at large.
Buenas tardes a todos. Mi nombre es María Flores y definitivamente creo que estoy de acuerdo con mi compañera María Sánchez, con mi compañera Marta Zárate, y también soy miembro de la comunidad de Soledad, lo olvidé mencionar, pero creo que se les está olvidando algo muy importante. Ustedes están aquí por la comunidad, ¿verdad? Queremos lo mejor para nuestros hijos, queremos lo mejor para la comunidad. Entonces, creo que no se ha hecho el trabajo correcto al no involucrar a la comunidad, al no hacer foros comunitarios de lo que se va a llevar a cabo. Y nosotros estamos aquí, se pueden dar cuenta porque estamos pasando la voz, como varios de mis compañeros, y en las escuelas de nuestros hijos, ¿saben de esto? No lo sabemos, no lo entendemos. Entonces tenemos que educarnos, tenemos que dejarnos también, tenemos que empoderarnos, pero no nada más solo una parte. Tenemos que pasar el conocimiento. Si queremos que participemos toda la comunidad, debemos de hacerlos parte de la comunidad, de nuestras decisiones. Entonces, yo los invito, por favor, que reflexionemos. La comunidad debe de elegir al alcalde. La comunidad lo ha elegido por muchos años y creo que podemos pensar diferentes, pero creo que se debe de llevar a cabo diferentes puntos de vista con todos, no nada más con ciertas personas en el concilio. Porque de la razón importante que estamos aquí, muchas de mis compañeras, es porque queremos la inclusión, queremos la información de lo que están llevando a cabo en español también. La mayoría de personas que ya estamos votando, estamos aprendiendo inglés, pero también queremos la inclusión. Queremos esa información afuera, porque nosotros queremos estar aquí, pero cuando venimos aquí queremos que las agendas estén en español, que tengamos traducción y que todos se sientan bienvenidos y que sepamos de qué estamos hablando. Y si no sabemos, que nos lo enseñen. Entonces, muchas gracias por su trabajo y eso es todo.
My name is Maria Flores. I agree with my friends Marta and Maria. think we are forgetting why we are here. We are here for the community. We are here for our kids. We don't feel that we had enough community meetings. We only know about this because of word of mouth. We have to, empower ourselves and also to pass on knowledge, and make sure the community is part of the decision. The community must have the ability to elect its mayor. We want inclusion and we want it in Spanish, and we want everybody to feel welcome.
Thank you so much. So we can bring it back. to this.
There's.
I apologize.
Muy buenas tardes, mi nombre es María Ramírez, soy miembro de la comunidad de Soledad hace 10 años y para mí es muy importante que por los distritos, aquí estamos mis compañeras y nosotros y yo por los distritos porque tenemos esa necesidad de que la comunidad sepa qué beneficios tiene 4 o 5 distritos y eso no lo sabe la comunidad, está muy pero muy confundida porque en sí no dieron a conocer que es un distrito de ciudad. La comunidad está confundida en qué es el distrito de la escuela y eso no, porque no dieron a conocerlo. Otra de las cosas para mí como ciudadana de este país, para mí es muy importante el voto. Y siento yo que al poner estos distritos nos quitarían ese derecho como ciudadanos. Es por eso que estamos aquí. Gracias.
Good evening, my name is Maria Flores, been a Soledad resident for over 10 years. We are here with our compañeras because of the districting. It's important that community knows the benefits of 4 or 5 districts. We feel that the city didn't explain what a city district is. A lot of people thought they were talking about school district. As a citizen, I take the vote very seriously and feel that with these districts, we won't have that vote.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Eneida Flores, yo tengo más de 20 años viviendo en la ciudad de Soledad, perdón que ando mala de mi garganta. La razón de que estamos aquí, porque yo conozco a la ciudad y como dijeron mis compañeras, no se tomó la opinión de los miembros de la ciudad y explicarles qué son distritos. La gente está confundida con los distritos escolares. Falta de información hacia la comunidad y otra cosa, que a veces toman decisiones sin tomar en cuenta a nosotros la comunidad. Porque hay acciones que ustedes toman y no nos toman en cuenta. Hacen su propio beneficio. ¿Y la ciudad dónde queda? Los miembros de la ciudad. Por ejemplo, si los distritos van a ser 5, les puedo garantizar que de la calle 4 a la calle 8 va a estar olvidada. El mapa que nosotros estamos apoyando está para toda la ciudad. No va a quedar uno más, no va a quedar uno menos. Esa es mi opinión. Gracias.
Good afternoon, my name is Eneida Flores. I've been living here for 20 years. I know the city. I feel that the people's opinion was not taken into consideration. A lot of folks believe that when we talk about districts, we're talking about the school district. A lot of the times, decisions are made without the opinion of the community. If it is 5 districts, we feel that, I missed the streets, but from street 8 will be forgotten. And so we want, our map to be considered, so.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Ingrid Ubedo, estoy aquí también para apoyar a la comunidad. Creo que es bien importante para nosotros, la comunidad. Y el 401 el mapa 401 se me hace bien para todo lo que necesitamos en la comunidad. No estoy de acuerdo en los 5 distritos, porque creo que tenemos nosotros derechos también para tener nuestro propio alcalde y votar nosotros lo que nosotros necesitamos para el bienestar de la comunidad. Gracias.
Good afternoon. We believe that the community is very important. Therefore, we agree with map 401. We do not agree with map number 5. We believe that the right to elect our mayor is very important.
Any more public comments? Yes.
Hi, everybody, my name's Miriam. Up until today, I had no idea any of this was happening. But based on what I'm hearing, I'm completely against the 5 districts. Solid prides itself with the slogan, it's really happening in Soledad, with what's really happening at democracy, like, no, thank you. I live in the new developments, and the new developments are filled with people that have moved from different cities and or states. And we didn't know anything about this. Anytime I talk to my neighbors, everybody's asking like, what's happening? Like, why are we not being included? Like, why is nobody bothering, like, letting us know about what's happening? Like, it's made to feel like, like, is there an ulterior motive, but why are we not knowing what anything is happening? Like, we're moving into the city based on what we know, and all of a sudden now it's changing, like, why is that? So based on all that, like, I'm totally against the 5 districts.
Any more public comments in person? Okay, so we'll take it to the table. So would someone like to go first?
Madam Chair, I don't know if, you want to give Sandy the ability to answer the question that was asked earlier.
Oh, sí. A la señora que hizo la pregunta acerca, oh, ok, disculpe, buscaba acá. La señora Christie nos ha dicho, ¿verdad? Que el concilio tiene que tener 2 otras juntas públicas para proveer información a la comunidad acerca de los mapas antes de que tienen que tomar su voto. So, a este tiempo, lo que estoy escuchando yo es que información acerca de lo que está ocurriendo no se ha puesto afuera de la comunidad bastante. Y esta fue una de las cosas por las razones que tuvimos esta junta, porque toda la mesa aquí, ¿verdad? Decidimos que no había bastante tiempo para avisar a dar la información a la comunidad. Yo sé que el señor Valenzuela tomó 2 otras juntas, ¿verdad? Una la semana pasada, una en inglés y una en español. So, a este tiempo, entonces, la carga va a ser acerca de hacer la pregunta acerca de cuántas más juntas anteriormente que el concilio dé para proveer la información a la comunidad. Y para que entiendan la diferencia entre los 5 distritos y los 4. Okay?
Like in transit or?
Yeah, go ahead and translate.
Okay. So very briefly, the process for choosing the district is that this committee is going to be charged with choosing the district that makes the recommendation to council. Council then will have to have an additional 2 meetings. Know that the city had 2 information sessions, but after tonight, with these recommendations, there will be 2 additional public hearings, and after which council will make a decision.
So, yeah, so it's not up to us, it's up to the council. We are here recommending our advice, recommendations to the council based on the community input. So each member has that outreach within the community. So now we can discuss after that conversation, after what we have all discussed within our community members, family members, neighbors, we can bring forth now you agree or don't agree. So what I would like to say is that the reason why I'm sustaining from selecting a vote from the 5 district is that that's an actual vote. That's my vote. My vote is not saying that these are not, I don't want to just push forward a map just because. I disagree that that's not something that is, has been represented within the community. So that's a vote. So not pushing forward for my personal recommendation and votes. We have 5 different votes here. So that's my vote.
Madam Chair, might I?
Or that's my opinion.
The reason I disagree with your point, Madam Chair, is for this and this reason alone. Our job isn't to be political tonight. Our job is just to come up with some recommendations. By doing what you're doing and what you're doing tonight, basically, if you get 3 votes the other way against you, then your map's not even gonna get submitted. The majority of this board is gonna say, we submit for 5 votes. And so yours is not even get heard. That's my point. Why it's imperative that we say, I'm not voting here. These public needs to understand, we are not the voting part. It's the city council. We don't have that vote. But by doing that, you're basically precluding yourself to say, if someone gets 3 votes, and then your vote's not even gonna be counted. And that's my point. You guys are making this very political, and we should not be political. Our job was no, I have the floor. I have the chair, through the chair. So that's why I'm saying, I would, even if you make a motion to say, I'm not really in favor of this, but if worst came to worst, this is what I recommend. That's my opinion, but you can do whatever you want. I'm just saying that that's the politics of it. And I'm kind of warning you against that because I don't want that to happen. We should not be political here. Our charge was to make some recommendations. And by doing the way you're doing it, basically you're already drawing those political lines. These people think that we have a vote. We don't have a vote. And just to clarify it, Maria brought up that I was a voted mayor for 10 years. I also was on the council when we served a mayor at large for 10 years. And I was a nominated mayor for 2 years. So my point is, I don't want to see us becoming political like that. I don't want to have that kind of spirit in this meeting. Allow the council to have that, and I'm sure they're gonna have a very spirited meeting. But that's not ours. I've gone through that for 20 years. I was on the council. So I know how to fight the fight. I know how to play this game. But if you're gonna play that game tonight, then you're gonna stand the chance of not even having your map submitted to the council. Because if you don't get 3 votes, then you're gonna say, well, no, we don't make a recommendation for anyone with a 4 map. You with me? And I'm not saying it to be facetious with you or anything. I'm just giving you the other side for you to think through that.
Yes, and I will answer it for you. So
Sure.
I've never said anything about the word political. I've not have brought words political. What I've said is that I'm representing what I have had conversations based off of. So no vote is a vote. The reason why, or it's a vote between us, right? We are all going to push forward a recommendation. So my recommendation is that there is the 5 districts. So there's 2 sides to this, right? So one is how the map is going to be distributed along the community of Soledad. And the other one is to push forward whether we have 5 districts or have 4 districts. And that is something that is very important to this community.
Might I add, Madam Chair, if I don't want to interrupt you, but might I add then maybe what this vote should be is these are the maps that we recommend for 5. This is what I recommend for 4. The chair does not believe that 5 is in the best interest of the community, neither does Fernando.
So if I have
I'm just throwing that out because you understand, I'm not saying you're being political, but I'm saying the way this is set up is starting to be political and it should not be that way. That's not my vote. I've been through that.
I have a question. So when we had a conversation, we could push forward just a 4 district and not push forward a 5 district, or do we have to push forward both options? So to my understanding is that we can push forward 1 district or 4 district and that's it, correct?
I see Kristen turn on her camera. I don't know, Kristen, you.
Oh, yeah, so based on the, I believe it was the resolution voted on by the city council, they did not detail any sort of requirement for what type of recommendation that you would make. You can make, you don't have to recommend a map. You could, I don't know, recommend
That might be best.
And,
whatever, right? And that's up to you.
So based on that criteria and that criteria that I understood prior to this discussion and all, that's why I'm moving forward. And this is why I said that I don't recommend 1 because that is also allowed. Yes.
I just also wanted to kind of, I totally hear where you're coming from. And I'm just gonna be honest, I think, saying that it's being political, I don't agree with, because again, we kind of have that decision of putting one over the other. What I'm hearing though is that, if we don't agree with having a 5th map, that you're going to say that you 3 are going to vote to not put forth a fourth map?
I didn't say that, but I said
Okay.
you take the risk of doing that,
Okay,
which is not the spirit of what we should be having
okay,
here.
sounds good.
My
So, but,
point is that that's not the spirit.
got it, I
this
still have
is-
the floor, I'm not finished. So I just, because 8 people spoke against having 5 districts, like, I'm inclined to hear that, just because I don't know, and just being in here, I just want to make sure that I'm listening to the public, and I don't know, it's the first time that I've been any of this sort of committee, so like, maybe that's my bleeding heart a little bit that wants to listen to everybody too. But that's just kind of where I wanted to come from. I don't really have a political agenda. I just feel like I want to be fair, and I think that a 5 district isn't fair. But that's pretty much my only thing, because I feel like you can kind of devil's advocate any sort of resolution. But with that being said, I will pass it over. I think you have a comment.
Yes, Madam Chair. I just would like to comment that I feel very uncomfortable with a lot of the public's comments, because most of the information that was coming was that we were choosing for our own
Exactly.
personal choices. I'm not even on city council, okay, and so that is a concern to me, because that means that they really truly do not understand what our charge is. And whatever information was being shared was kind of muddled. Because whoever was sharing the information didn't really understand it as much, or was pushing their own agenda. And so the fact that only 8 people came, I mean, we should have like a field council if this was very important to everybody, right? Not to say that they're not important, but my worry is that they already misunderstood, thinking that we're picking these for our own general purposes. And all we were appointed to, and we volunteered, right, to sit here for the good of the all, to provide an equitable choice to the city council. Because city council is who chooses, not us. All we're doing is providing some choices and kind of slimming down the choice. But only handing one map is not providing city council an opportunity to have a discussion. Because each of the council members, including the mayor, has the right to be able to hear. I'm actually, advocating for the council, each person that represents, right, to be able to look at these maps and then make a decision as a team, I would hope, for the good of the community, because that's what they're supposed to be doing. And I think that, to me, I guess this is the teacher in me speaking, is that equity for me, and having taught from K through university level and looking in, that's one of my majors, is, equity and responsibilities, and is that we have to take the emotion out, and then we have to look at what is equitable and what is fair, to ensure that people are given an opportunity, that they're well informed, which sounds like many of our community members are not, because they think we're the ones who are doing it for our own benefit. And 2, that they are informed as much as possible, because that was a concern that we had last year. I mean, at the last meeting, I even voiced it. I'm like, not very many people, and you to have 3 people at a meeting, or to have 8 people on something like this. If is that charged with emotion, then we do need our due diligence as representatives for the advisory committee to do our due diligence for the city council. I think, for me, would be the right thing to do, would be to submit the 2 sections of the maps and have them make those choices based on who their constituencies are and what committee members, and not based on, personal. Because I have my personal, but I'm taking it out. I'm looking at what's gonna be fair to council to make a decision. And that's it. That's what I'm looking at. Looking at numbers, that's why I looked at the numbers. That's where that piece comes, where you guys are talking about equity, right? So to get that emotional charge out of it and to sit, and it's a difficult thing to do, okay? So we have to look at, those numbers. That's why, that was the first thing I went to. I went to look at those numbers, and I'm like, okay, well, what seems kind of fair, let's look at the voting history, let's see the voting populations, and that's really kind of where we're gonna get that equity. Now, the equity that we're talking about, if, you know, moving away from the map, the equity that you guys are talking about, then is really about informing our community on how to vote, what to do, understanding the process and procedures, becoming, you know, community advocates, coming and becoming more engaged, you know, but being well informed. Because what I heard today worries me, because you know, what I heard was like, you people have chosen this. And it's like, well, all we're doing is providing some maps for city council to choose. So again, I'm gonna stand by my thought process, and it's not emotional. My thought process is, I'm gonna look at the numbers, I'm gonna look at what the maps, the consultants gave us. The consultants gave us most of them. I think it's fair that if we have 1-5, that's a publicly submitted map, and that we have 1-4, you know, 401, 4 district publicly submitted map. To me, that's equitable, right? And then city council can make that decision. I think that is my thought process, and having been through a lot of politically charged things, I have learned through that is that look at the numbers, who has to make the decision, and what is our charge, right? And so our charge is to pick some maps to send to city council. That's it. So our charge is, are the numbers fair? Do they look fairly equitable? And how's that? Then they can choose. Because then we can come, we ourselves and go and say, hey, this is my political opinion about this. And then we can have more people come and talk about that, right? And that is why this advisory committee was posted, so we didn't have city council members building the maps, okay? We had community members building the maps, and most of the maps were built from a consultant. So to make sure that it was equitable. So I think just let's remember that our charge is to leave emotion out and really look at numbers and what are we gonna provide our city council? Because we have to be fair to them. You know, because they are representing our community.
I remember that.
Okay, so that's how I look at it. So, that's my thought process.
Anyone else? We haven't heard from you, do you?
All right, so, like I said, I'm here for the community, and, you know, I like that everybody's voices got heard. And like, you know, like what it seems like everybody thinks that we're making decisions here, and we're just here to recommend maps, and you know, the final decision will go back to the councilman. And what I say, like, from what I've heard from some of the people that went up there, is just that their voices aren't gonna get heard on certain parts. But I really believe if, you know, the direction that the city's taking is, it's actually gonna make the city better, because they're gonna have one person that's gonna represent each district, and they're gonna have someone they could go to and speak about things, issues or concerns they have about their community. Which if it's one big thing, you know, they don't, you know, they have someone to talk to in each district, so now that's what's gonna represent them, and I feel like nothing's gonna be unheard, you know? And you know, I completely agree with 5 districts.
Okay, do you have a favorite map from the 5 districts that you?
I'll go with Apple and 501.
Madam Chair, just, I mean, the point of procedure, at this point, that discussion, just like you did with the 4 district maps, anybody is free to make a motion and go to a vote.
Absolutely. I think that so far we've heard from everyone. This is why I wanted to give you the floor to hear from you. So we could go to motion any of these maps. So motion not to bring any forward, any of these maps like we've discussed. We have already motioned and passed a map for the 4 districts. We don't have to push any map for the 5 districts. That's part of the procedure that we can push forward with. However, we, again, all have different opinions. Maybe we are trying to come to one opinion concretely. Does anyone have motion to push any of the maps? I'm trying to ask this so that.
So, Madam Chair, I would so move to provide city council with the opportunity to review the Apple map, map 501, if once it has been reviewed, meets the appropriate criteria and it was qualifiable. If not, then we understand it will fall off. And then the only other map that would be in the 5-district map would be the Apple map.
Okay,
Okay, and that would be my motion.
okay.
for table.
What do the chair, do we take a vote yet on four districts? Also,
Yes, we
already
did.
that.
Uh-huh.
And we
Okay.
passed one,
Okay.
we passed 2 maps.
Okay.
The TAN and the
And
401.
his 401, correct? All right, cool. Okay, so I'll second her motion. In regards to 5 districts.
Okay, so for you, you are in favor of the Apple? And in favor of the 501 that you submitted?
Correct.
Okay. I would like,
I'm sorry to interrupt, but if you can make sure that this just has your map so that we can.
Yeah, I give it to
Okay.
Darlene, yes,
Has
Thank
been
you, ma'am.
submitted, so that should be added to the notes. Yeah.
yeah.
Madam Chair, now there's a motion and a second, take it out to a vote.
all right, so let's vote. So now we're looking at 2 maps for the 5 districts. We're looking at the Apple and we're looking at the 501 that was submitted by Fred. So do we have in favor of submitting these 2 maps? If the 501 is approved, we qualified to be part of a map.
Can you go around the table so I can get a clear?
Okay.
Who votes for what?
Uh,
She
I-
moved, yeah.
I move it, yes.
I say no, nay.
Nay.
Aye.
Aye.
So
Well said, Sandy.
So, the 5-district maps will be moving forward with the 501 as a recommendation, as well as the Apple as a recommendation for the city council, along with, the 4 districts for the, 401 submitted by Fernando and the 10 map.
And the 501 will be, remember to add that it has to be approved by the consultant.
Yes, that is already in the. Okay, and we can move forward with the agenda. So provide staff with direction. So did we clear that?
So it is our understanding, we will get these maps, we will submit that to Brisbane, our consultants, and we will also work with council to, get 2 public hearings placed.
Also, do we have, any, I'm not sure.
I have a question through the
Yes.
chair. Do we have to go to the public hearings as a committee or are we done after
I
today?
think we're done.
you're done, but.
But like, we could go if we want,
but
right?
you
Yeah.
could-
And I am, Madam Chair, also to encourage the public. And for them to understand that it's not us that's making this vote. I didn't, and I'm like Sandy, I didn't appreciate the fact that people are looking at us like we're the ones advocating for one way or the other. I really, that's not our charge. Our charge is to say, these are recommendations, allow that to go to the council. If people want to get political, they should be political with the council, not with us. not with-
I do think that there is a lack of, information being provided to the community. A lot of members don't know what's happening, so I do think that it's important to inform the community what is happening so that their voice is heard. So yeah, I do definitely.
I have another question through the chair.
Yes.
Do you mind translating that in Spanish that we're not voting for the maps today? Just so that it, got it, okay. Wanted to make sure.
And I know it's already past our hour, but just, I think one of the other things that's gonna be really important is people really understanding, what the voting process is and, how to go through the process and, one of the things, somebody quoted the Constitution and part of the Constitution is law, right? Which states that part of us as citizens, it is our due responsibility to learn and find out what that is. Now, yes, it is our charge as, community leadership to provide venues for that. So maybe that would be something that needs to be put on the table with council to help them understand and with community engagement that, just online isn't working.
Mhm.
Okay, even I get busy. I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot, or whatever. And, and we have a community who, as they stated, they're still learning English, they're still learning to navigate things. Many of them are not as savvy. And, we have the same issue in the schools. Everything's moved to, online, and parents don't come to meetings, et cetera, unless we're calling or we're speaking to them in person. And that's part of our culture. We're still a small community that is growing, but we have the opportunity to become that community that empowers our people to understand how to make informed decisions. And right now, with smaller districts, whether it's the 4 or the 5, whatever council decides, student council, whether the city council decides, okay, then I think the charge then would be our constituents to say, then they could go to, anybody, the mayor, to any of their council representatives and say, hey, how come we're not having enough meetings telling us what to do, right? Because at large, sometimes it's one ear and out the other. And so, as I stated earlier, having been in a very large city and seeing how districts work, they can be very powerful when the council uses them appropriately.
President rotates?
I think that's very well said, because instead of everyone here worried about, well, how are you voting? Well, dude, I really don't care. You're gonna have 4 or you're gonna have 5. I'm not voting. I think Irv's point was very well said, that you should have better representation. Every person in here should have better representation, because you only have one person now that you needs to be your contact person for that.
And to be held accountable, because you voted
Exactly.
for them.
So the idea of 7th and 8th Street, which the taxi lady talked about, I think is well taken, but now you're gonna have a representative to just, that's the rep for 7th and 8th, 6th Street, this street, right? I think it's better for the community.
And I think if we always come from a positive perspective, right? So always come positive intent and looking at that, whatever council decides, whatever district, when we have districts, if one district council member is a mover and a shaker, that's gonna help the other council members rise. Why? It's because their constituents are gonna go, hey, no, over here is moving and shaking, how come we're not? Right? So now it's like, yeah, they're gonna have to earn their keep and actually represent, not just get voted in.
I'm like curious because if it's rotating and it's 4 years and we have 5, I feel like then that means that somebody might not even get a chance to be mayor.
The rotation normally is 2 years. When I served on the rotating, it was 2 years.
So then it would be that like a council member just wouldn't get a chance because if they didn't get reelected.
And I don't know, Fernando, and Megan, you would correct me, I don't know if it's rotating or if the council themselves votes on the mayor.
Well, and then, I'm hearing a little red flag here, because you're like, oh, we're just gonna rotate with the council members for mayor. I mean, if I wanted to run for mayor, legally I can vote for mayor. It just depends on what district I'm in. So we're talking about equity. We're not really talking about, is each council member gonna get an opportunity to run for mayor? This is if they so choose to, or if you so choose to run for mayor, or if anybody here sitting wants to run for mayor, so what our job is not to make that decision. It's council's decision on the districts. Our job is to make sure that the maps that were sent forward were as equitable as possible on that voting component. For me, that's how I looked at it. No political anything, just, are people gonna get the opportunity? And whatever district number they choose, we just need to make sure that our people are being informed. And I believe that, I was the one who held it up one more, because I'm the one who said we need another meeting and we need to inform people, because 3 is not enough as far as I'm concerned. And even 11 isn't, but we have to move forward. So.
Well, thank you for that. Thank you, Madam Chair. So I feel that we start.
I have a question. So do we vote, or do we know? So do we know when the meeting is gonna be held for the city council?
We do not yet.
Okay.
I'll make sure to.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll be announced.
It's likely gonna be in August. And I'm not sure, we're asking council if they want to do it on a Wednesday when they normally meet on the off Wednesdays, or
Yeah, it may be a regular meeting, it may be a special, we need to pull them and find out how they want to do it.
Okay.
And just so everyone is aware, the legal requirement for those two meetings,
So legal requirement, here we go.
oh, sorry, it's just that those two meetings are held within 45 days of each other. So
That's
we
right.
can't have
Okay.
one meeting and then wait 3 months to have the other one.
Okay.
Okay, anyone else? Adjournment, so do we,
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we adjourn.
Second that motion.
all in favor of?
Hi,
Hi,
Aye.
thank you. Thank you so much for
Thank
being the chair.
you.
Thank you for that.
yes,
Very
thank
nice.
you.
Thank you for your time.
Yes.